Right, have a good one.
Take care, mate. Well, you can hear me, but you definitely cannot see me. It's the 8th edition of the Gritty Nitty podcast. My name's Tosca, and I'm here to moderate today because we have a special guest. Our first special guest in a long time. It's Matt from Gorgon City, alongside Steve Milton. First time in the chair. Wave to the people, please, Steve.
Hello, people.
Michael, as we all know, the wonderful Michael Emmett, and not forgetting, bringing up the rear, Mr. Mark Dempster.
Thanks, Tosca.
Touche.
You promised not to mention that yet.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Bring up the rear. I love it. Sorry.
The
Calm down.
Scotsman. Yeah.
Calm down, we're on the clock here.
Aye.
So today's topic is the topic of recovery. I don't know really what the guys are talking about, but I'm going to just sit in and listen to them, tell their tales of what that means to them and what it's really about. But I think the essence of today's chat, topic, meeting, podcast, whatever you call it, is that Matt has really come along to share his story, ably supported by the other guys about what recovery looks like to them, what it feels like to them, and what the future of it is to them, and what the past has been like for them. So with that, I'm going to kind of kick off, and I'm going to ask, not Matt, I'm going to ask Mark to kind of get the show on the road.
Okay, guys. Good to be here again. It's good to be in new premises, isn't it? And recovery. We're here to talk about recovery, and outside, by the way, that was a great conversation. But just before you came, Tosca, we were talking about the rave scene, really in relation to Matt, and we're talking about Ecstasy and about the beginnings of really Ecstasy and how the rave scene was really influenced by the use of Ecstasy. So if I was to talk about recovery, that's a good platform to begin, because back then, in 1985 it must have been, 84, 85, my drug use, my alcohol use, my addiction was a lot of fun. I looked at it and it was a lot of fun. We were opening up warehouses at the back of King's Cross. We were doing raves. I was with a lot of travellers. We were all wheeling and dealing. I had money. It was the honeymoon. It was the fucking honeymoon period, really. Yeah. And anyway, so it's the honeymoon period. But if I fast forward another 12 years, what happens is all of that, the money gets stripped away, the self-esteem gets stripped away, the relationships become much more toxic relationships, much more aggression, violence, much more fear, and so though the beginning days were the love and going to India and Goa and acids and ecstasy and connection and this sense of like belonging, being part of different groups, that we're all on the fringes of society, whether it be travellers, whether it be drug smugglers or dealers, or and it was fun, it was exciting, I was curious, I had a zest for it, I had a passion. Take forward, let the addiction progress, and the addiction takes me to selling travel cards outside Brixton Tube Station, because I've got nothing, I've lost everything, no dignity, no self-respect, absolutely robbed of everything, and the recovery process started there, and going into a rehab back then in 1996, and then that was the beginning of this amazing journey, really, with its ups and downs, like we all have. We have ups and downs, we have trials, tribulations, we have breakups in relationships, we have deaths of family members, but the idea is that a day at a time, I don't use a drink or a drug, a mood-altering substance that takes me back to being the lunatic that I was back then. If I let the lion out the cage, that lion is going to devour me. So a day at a time, I don't use.
Okay, because Dan said for me not to speak for any longer than 10 seconds, I'm going to
yourself.
try to do that. Steve, what's your experience? You're new to the sofa. What's your experience of this process?
My experience changes all the time. My current experience today and what recovery is and what it has been So when I hear that word now, when I heard Mark speaking, it actually just took me back right to when I identified inside myself where that obsession took off, where I felt awkward, not part of. You know, I was like 10 or 11 years old, and you know, long before I got drunk, and so recovery really started for me when I was like 10 or 11, because that's when I started hunting for a solution, and I didn't know what was wrong with me, and you know, I went through various cycles of that, you know, blindly and unconsciously, and not even having the language to describe how I felt. I mean, having been in recovery for a few years now, I think I've got the language to describe what it was, but there was just the feeling of something missing, something wasn't right. And so, yeah, for me, recovery started before I even picked up my first drink. And you know, getting drunk, or you know, fixing on other stuff. I mean, like, you know, my original dream was to be an acid house DJ. That's what I started off doing. You know, I left. You know, I was lucky enough to go to a really good school, and I just couldn't wait to get out. And like the first acid house thing was kicking off in '87, and I just couldn't wait to get going. And for me, I was just obsessed with the music, obsessed with the records, obsessed with my Technics turntables, obsessed with scratch. I was just obsessed with the whole thing, and you know, getting wasted wasn't part of it. I was just so obsessed with it. There was nothing else could crowd it out. But you know, within a few years, I didn't realise it at the time. So again, only just, you know, coming into recovery and getting clean and sober, that I could see what was going on at the time. You know, the parasite that was in me was slowly taking over the host. Sorry, did you want to say something?
No, I didn't.
No.
That's good.
Yeah, it was taking
Yeah.
over the host, and actually it got to whenever it was 15 or 20 years ago, when you know, the parasite was running the host. The parasite became the host, and you know, and I was desperate and terrified of what was happening. Again, I still didn't have the language to describe it. I was going to counsellors and therapists, and I couldn't tell them what was going on, because I didn't know how to describe it. But you know, fortunately, I found recovery, and you know, miraculously, it worked after I didn't get it on the first go. Like Mark says, you know, it's incredible. You know, what's incredible for me is that I can live life without getting wasted. I mean, that's the first thing. But secondly, you know, I turned 54 2 weeks ago. I never thought I'd make 54, and to be able to experience just like normal things in life. You know, for example, we just moved house two weeks ago. I turned up for it. The last time we moved house 16 years ago. So I knew I was in deep trouble at the time, and you know, the day before of the move, I was just mentoring to myself, don't drink. It was just all day long, and then it got to 10 o'clock in the evening, and I just went, well, half a Guinness wouldn't hurt. And you know how the story unfolds. I went out for a half a Guinness, and I didn't turn up until 7 o'clock the next evening. You know, my wife and daughter. Well, my daughter thought I died. My wife had thought there's a good chance that I've died, and you know, that's a blessing for me, being able to turn up for your house move. I mean, for someone in my condition, that is a miracle. But you know, I have lots of examples of that, and that's what recovery means to me today: is being able to do life on life's terms, a day at a time.
Fantastic.
Cheers,
Moving
Steve.
swiftly along the sofa to one of our regulars, Mr. Michael Emmett. Take it away, son.
Oh, yeah, lovely. That was great, Stephen, what you just said. I really got into that. Excuse me, I've got this reoccurring cough. Yeah, I suppose I'll start where you kicked off, at that sort of the ecstasy scene. And I suppose for me, it was the first drug. I mean, I started drinking when I was 11. and got drunk. As simple as that, on a party 4. Remember being sick over the park and all that, thought I was like whatever it was. So immediately I couldn't have one. We know the story. And so when Ecstasy turned up, so I was trying to snort coke for England, and I should get rigor mortis set in and couldn't sleep and talk complete and utter nonsense. And can't even remember what I spoke about 2 days. I couldn't go out for a night. It have to be that insanity and winding up in places that I wouldn't normally go. And then when the ease came, I remember taking the Ecstasy in my flat. I was telling you earlier. And I took it, and I was a bit nervous because I didn't like the acid. It used to frighten me, that stuff. And I took half. Mate of mine said, I'll take the other half. And I got frightened. And he put your head out the window, he said. So I did, and the fresh air hit me. And I thought, oh my God, it's arrived. It's this, wow. And I went to the toilet and had a shave. And I can remember shouting out to my wife then, Tracy, it's the best shave I've ever had. Where did you buy the toilet paper from? It was so soft. So for me, I'd taken off, and I eventually crash landed as normal. And I remember being up, what was it called, Mark? Up the what was it? Limelight. And watching it all, and there was all supporters from Chelsea, Millwall, Arsenal, Tottenham, at war with each other, all kissing each other and going, oh, how are you? And so I was there at the embryo stage, and today the music, I sort of like the music, I sort of get into it a little bit. I find it a bit groovy. But for my recovery, Ecstasy wasn't the greatest thing for me because I thought I was all right. Not that I'd be out for 2 days and no one knew where I was. And so that constant trying to feel that pain of my whatever it was, so to recover from what I was born with, and I like what you said, that you didn't have the knowledge that I thought I was just spark out. I thought I was mad. I suppose I am. And so everything I could do to change the way I felt, it didn't have to be drugs. It did. I got into money at a very young age. I was intrigued by money and girls and everything was obsessive, and food and football. I had to play football 3 times at the weekend. It was nothing. I couldn't sit in school and listen. I just couldn't. So I started to realise when I was about 13 that I was unwell. I didn't know who to tell. I didn't know what to say, and it had an energy in me that was pretty driven. But without the saddle and the skill to harness it, I was constantly in trouble. Prisons and whatever that took place in that. But I suppose that journey of finding out who I was, recovery taught me that, to understand who I was, because the illness wouldn't allow me to know what I was. I wanted to be everything that I wasn't, or wasn't. It wasn't my shout to be an astronaut. I didn't want to be an astronaut. I didn't want to be anything. I didn't want to be a policeman. I wanted to be a football player, and I weren't that. I was all right, but I wasn't that good. So I just didn't have a clue what it meant. And my siblings, both of them, were extremely bright, and I wasn't. So that was another flick across the years. My dad was always praising them. They were A-levels, O-levels. I didn't turn up for my exams, and I think the old man got fined, and I got a whack round the ear. But that's how it was for me. Even when I was in business, that's how it was for me. So taming this tiger is not tamed by not using drugs and drink. That's the main thing to stop me being insane. But I'm still left with it. I'm still left with what it can suggest, what it can do. I have to train the eyes. I have to train the eyes, because the eyes can take me to a place that's extremely destructive. Really, I have a fetish. I suppose everyone's listening. I used to have a fetish about girls in jeans. I'd follow them up the road and think, God. And it weren't noncy. It was just, I used to admire it, and it was my thing. And big boobs. So that would be the fantasy. Do you reckon we could get married? I wouldn't say that. But that went on for years, because I did not feel good about Michael. And I had the trappings, I had everything what you meant to have. It was got illegally, so that was dysfunctional. So when I landed, and I had to get on with me, everything that I had sort of evaporated, so I could find out really who I was. And today I'm a dad, I'm a grandfather, and they're very special to me. And I can turn up for that. I can equate what my art's saying rather than what my crazy head is trying to twist me with. And so art language for me is a major part of recovery, because I can turn it on myself and say, you know what, you're all right. You know, it's okay. Stop. No matter what you've done in the past, right here, right now, how are you? And I'm all right. Sitting here right now, I'm pretty cool. I like what you both shared. Thanks.
Okay,
Tosca.
fantastic.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you to Mark, Steve, and Michael. But today's special guest is young Matt, and I just want you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're here today to talk about recovery with these three wonderful men.
Well, yeah, I'm Matt. I guess I'm a little bit younger than you guys, but yeah, it's all quite new for me, the whole recovery thing. But basically, I come from London. I'm a DJ. I'm a drummer. I originally was a sort of drum and bass DJ when I was a kid. Then it sort of led on to becoming a sort of house act. I'm in a duo called Gorgon City. We now tour the world every weekend. We've had, top 10 singles. We've had top 10 albums. We're on album number 4 that just came out last week. Been signed to a major label for 10 years now. So yeah, had like a sort of quite long and sort of so far pretty successful career in music. Never thought I would. Always loved it. From 14 years old, I started making tunes on my mum's old laptop, and it sort of, I managed to crack how to make banging bass lines and big drums and stuff like that. So I just kept at it and never looked back, basically. And yeah, basically from a young age, I loved going out, I loved partying. But like I was saying before, it was always kind of, the excuse in my head was that it was all about the music. So I was going out to these raves to watch the DJs and to listen to the tunes and try and work out how they make them, in my head. And then I go back to, my mum's house and try and sort of recreate the noises that I was hearing every night when I was going out. And so at the time, obviously I got into, getting smashed as well, but I always kind of had this kind of, I think it was a sort of excuse in the back of my head where it was always about me developing my producing techniques as a musician, as a producer and DJ, and then only recently really has the recovery stuff come into it. So being a full-time touring DJ and producer eventually led me into relying on alcohol and drugs, basically, and it turned into a problem about, it's probably been a problem for a long time, but for me to actually realize properly that it was a problem, it was only in the past couple of years, really. Well, things have happened, obviously, things happen over the years that have completely fucked up, but I've never really even thought about them, because all I cared about was carrying on DJing and making music and probably getting smashed. Do you know what I mean? So it's only recently that I've started actually analysing what I was doing and basically tried to make a change, and stop drinking and stop taking drugs. And I've been clean now for 8 months, so it's only it's only a new thing. It took me, as you know, it took me a few months to get clean. You know what I mean? But at least at the time it was bad. When it just keeps accumulating, the amount you're taking, the problems that it causes, the issues that were happening in my life. They crescendo, don't they? They don't go away.
Escalating.
They escalate.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it never gets
compound
better.
interest.
Yeah. It never. Even if you stop for a couple of weeks or a month or whatever, you start again and you're back where you were when you stopped.
Yeah.
There's no there's no recovery without actual recovery.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I've realised that now because it took me about, I think it was about probably 2 or 3 months to kind of sort it out. Because, I'd be like, yeah, I'll be fine, then I get back in the rave, and it's like with my job, it's the only job in the world, I think, apart from maybe being someone who actually supplies the drugs, where drugs are offered to you as soon as you get to work. So like I get to work, and instead of someone saying hello to me, they'd be like, here's a bag of coke. You know what I mean? They wouldn't even introduce themselves, and it's free. And it's like everywhere I go, I've got a rider that's probably like half the size of this room, which is booze. You know, every type of booze you can imagine, the best booze in the world. You know, champagne, bloody, you know, high end spirits. And it was, you know, something which it's just constantly there. And so to sort of like not give in to the temptation after being so used to doing it for so long, it's not difficult, but it took me a while to say no and to change the way I acted when I arrived at work in the club or whatever, or even just at the hotel where I was staying at that night, wherever I am in the world. And now I'm at a point in my life where I can actually go into a room. Like this literally happened to me last night. No, Monday night. So it's, what day is it? Wednesday.
Wednesday,
So I was in Ibiza. I played a show. One of my friends was like, "Oh, I've come to Ibiza. I really want to go out and see you play. Do you want to go to DC10 first, which is another club? I play at Amnesia, and DC10's another club where a couple of people I know were playing that night." And I was like, "Yeah, you know, I'll come with you. I'm playing at 2, so we can go there first, have a little dance, and then I'm going to go to my club and play there." And he didn't. I haven't seen him for a while. He doesn't even know I'm sober. So we turn up to the club, and he's like, we're in the backstage, and he's like, "You want a drink, yeah?" And I was like, "I'll have a water." And he's like, "All right, okay." You know, a few drinks later, whatever, he's there. He bumps into some people he knows. This girl comes up to him, and he's like, I could overhear him. He was like, "Have you got anything? Have you got anything?" And so this is like the obstacles I still have to dodge every day when I'm at, well, I wasn't at work at that time, but you know, she popped up, she's like, yeah, I've got this, takes this spray out, she's like, acid spray, and he goes like, opens his mouth, she goes, and I was like, and she was standing that close to me, right, and she goes like that to me, and she's like, and I was like, "No, I'm all right, thanks though." But literally it was like that, it could have been a split second where I could have just been like, I could have just opened my mouth and she would have gone, and it was just, it was making me laugh because it was in my head. I was like, this is literally the worst place in the world that a person in recovery could be right now. But because of my job, I can't avoid it.
Doesn't it show the power of recovery though, that you can be in a situation like that, and you're sitting here and
it's true. I know, and it's mad. It's like
speaks volumes.
Speaks volumes.
But also the administration of the drugs now. Look at that, man.
Acid
Look at
spray.
a spray. You
I
just
know.
go, and how close
I know.
you were if you just turned your mouth.
I know, because
bang,
my
you're
mate did
fucked.
it, and then about 10 minutes later I look at him and he's like, looking
gone.
up at the bloody lights, and
How was he that you didn't want to do it? Did he sort of comment?
he just sort of he just said, "Oh, you're not drinking," and you know, eventually we spoke a little bit about it. When he kind of sobered up a bit later on, he was like, "Oh, you're not drinking." I was like, "Nah, I don't drink anymore. I don't get on it." And he was just like, "Oh, that's good, mate." I mean, he's an old friend, so he was cool with it. But but then it's funny because half an hour later we went to the next club, walked through the VIP entrance, which is up on the balcony. There was this big table where my manager, my agent, the guy who runs the night was there. He's the promoter, and the first thing he said to me, he turned around, he went, "Come on, mate, it's my birthday. We're doing shots." And he gave me a shot, and I just went, No, I'm good." And he goes, What you on about? He's like, "What the fuck are you on about?" And I was like, No, it's cool, man. You have a really good birthday. Nice one. Happy
well
birthday. And just put it down. And it's like, but it's still, it's almost now
surreal.
It's surreal, and I find it. I'm starting to see the funny side of it, because during the time when I was getting clean, I was finding it tough, really hard to say no. And it was tough, and I you know, be some nights where I'd be able to hack it and be like, "Nah, it's cool, like I'm not gonna have that." But then sometimes I'll just have one shot of tequila or one beer, and then eventually, most, you know, sort of 9 times out of 10, it would end up with me having drunk a whole bottle of tequila, you know, sort of like feeling like an absolute piece of shit, you know, 9 a.m, still awake, got to go back to the airport, fly to another gig, do it all again because you can't get through the next gig because you're so fucking you're so hungover, you've got to drink to get through the next one. and it's just this vicious cycle of touring where like you can't.
It's hard work.
Yeah, and you can't do it unless
Has it
you.
changed your performances? Or has it changed anything?
Yeah, it's changed. It's made me enjoy it so much more.
Oh wow, that's great.
Because like I was relying on it, and it was becoming a problem, and so like it got to the point where, you know, it would be a Thursday or something, and I'd be leaving my house, and I wouldn't be looking forward to it because I knew that on the Monday I would be feeling like an absolute piece of shit,
You knew
and
it was in store.
and I knew that was in store, so I wouldn't really enjoy the gigs because I knew that I had this horrible looming kind of like hangover come down thing.
Impending doom.
Impending doom.
Yeah.
Exactly. I had that every week, and so now that I don't have that, I'm like so much happier, and I can turn up somewhere and just be like, you know, have a little nap beforehand. It's not easy. I've still got to stay up all night, every night I work basically, so it's not ideal, but at least I can do it and feel good about myself and get up the next day and go get breakfast and go for a walk around the town I'm in, or go and go for a run, or go to the gym. Whereas before I'd be in my hole, you know, in a black hole in the room with, you know, with bloody curtains shut, and till the last minute I'd run downstairs, get in the car and go back to the airport, and I'd probably just have my last drink before I get in the cab, and then carry on drinking at the airport and carry on drinking on the plane, and then it just now, without all that, it's made it so much easier. And it's funny looking back, I could have, if only I'd done that before, you know, but
maybe you wasn't ready then.
exactly. And like, if I hadn't gone through all of that, I wouldn't be where I am now. So it's sort of, but yeah, it's been a mad journey, and it's definitely saved my career and my life.
Fantastic.
100% it saved my career and my life, because, you know, it was only going to get worse. It got to the point where I was like, if I'm going to carry on making music, I'm gonna have to stop touring, because I can't. Before I got clean, I was like, I've got to stop touring because it's ruining my life. I can't be a dad. I can't have a relationship. I can't, you know, be a happy person. So to enable to stop drinking, I've got to stop touring, and that would have destroyed my career. So being able to get clean and get sober, it has made me be able to have longevity in a career that I love, and it's something which I've always loved, and I don't want to stop doing it. I want to keep doing it until I can't walk anymore. I mean, I say that now, but do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm nearly 40. I want to be able to DJ until I'm, you know, 50 at least, like, and just keep on doing it. And thanks to recovery, it's made it seem possible now, where it didn't this time last year. Basically, that's.
Well, the addiction kills the passion.
Yeah, it's a passion, and it's turning in. I'm really lucky. That's another thing. It's like so many people would kill to be in my shoes, because it's such an amazing career. It's such an amazing job to have, and to throw it all away just to get smashed is just. It's just that's just such a sort of like disappointing thing to do. Do you know what I mean? I feel like such an idiot giving up a career like that just because I want to get smashed every time I do it.
Absolutely.
So
I just want to
Excuse me.
intercede. Listening to you, Matt, it's really interesting. I worked in the music business, major labels, I think, for a very long time. And I worked at CBS before it turned to Sony. So we're talking 1987. I was a kid, and I was just thinking that the music business really enables drug taking.
yeah,
It really enables drug taking. And my old boss at CBS in America was a guy called Walter Yetnikoff, who actually signed Michael Jackson. And he was the first person I ever knew went into treatment.
wow,
He went into treatment. This is like 1986, 1987. And then I had a boss here that ran Columbia, and he was in treatment in 1992.
wow.
He was at Farm Place. And I can always remember, and I suppose this is what you've got to battle with, and I'm sure it's part of your story, going to my boss, you know, and I'm taking substances that I shouldn't take, and I sort of said to him, you know what, I think I've got a problem with cocaine. And you know what he did? He scribbled something on a piece of paper and said, ring this bloke. He's a much better dealer. And
get better stuff.
yeah,
Mad.
and you know, and listening to you, I'm thinking to myself that what was the real kind of, what was the rock bottom with it all? Was there an incident? Because it's so very, very difficult to get clean under the circumstances you're talking about, where it, you know, when we go back in history, what people don't understand about rock and roll and music itself, it's only been here for about 70 years. The first chart was 1955. So whether it be Lennon, McCartney, Bowie, you know, Bob Marley, the rest of it, drugs are synonymous with music. So what was that kind of, you know, what was there an incident? You know, where do you get the strength? How have you, you know, basically, how have you done it?
Yeah, there's been, to be honest, there's been countless incidents over the years of my like behaviour that have, you know, like we were saying before, like build up the sort of like arsenal of problems. It's like, I can't really say there was one specific thing, but there's various things that have happened over the years in situ as well, like in the club. Weird things happen between you and other DJs, you and promoters. So like there's been loads of weird kind of like sort of beef and arguments between me and other DJs and people that I see all the time because of being so smashed and just out of it. And those kind of things really started playing on my mind a lot as a DJ, as someone that, because in our industry, it's like what I'm in is it's actually quite small. You see the same people at most of the festivals every weekend or every year. You bump into the same lineups. You know what I mean? It's like there's only a few big kind of DJs really. Like that's why, and it's quite a sort of close knit society of people, and everyone's a fucking drug addict, and everyone's a nutcase, and all the promoters are lunatics, and you know a lot of the people that run the parties are drug dealers, and they're dark. It's a dark industry, you know what I mean? It's a nightclub industry. So the music industry is completely fucked up, but the dance music industry is even more fucked up because it's like it's all night long. So it's all based on drugs, and you know, so it's like I really just, I don't know, man. There's just been so many different things that have led to me to wanting to get out of that cycle of being, you know, a sort of someone that needs drugs and alcohol to get through it. But yeah, like it's just also having a kid, basically, has been a massive change. Before I had a kid, like, you know, I could come home after a weekend and sleep for 2 days, and then get back on the road again on the Thursday, and it'd be fine. But now I come back, I've got to be a dad. You know what I mean? So I can't sleep when I come home. So I've got to be present. I've got to be aware. I've got to be, you know, a good dad, basically. And you can't do that if you're smashed or hungover and, you know, just like feeling awful. So yeah, having a kid definitely changed it. But I think also, just to be honest, like you said, it's like having a successful career, it's so easy to celebrate your wins, you know what I mean, and also commiserate your losses with alcohol and drugs. So like that's why it was, in a way, you asked what was my rock bottom. It was like, I think the problem was that there wasn't a rock bottom in my career yet. So there was I didn't have that to sort of be like, oh, that's why I've got to stop.
Yeah.
So I had to find it within myself.
Yeah.
It was an emotional rock bottom.
It was an emotional
rock bottom.
Yeah.
It's not physical or material rock bottom.
Yeah, because I'm still making money.
Yeah, you're still doing well.
Yeah.
In fact, you're doing great. You know, with the drug, you're still performing.
Yeah, that's one of the problems. I mean, it's like a sort of like a first world problem. It's like, oh my god, I've got too much. I've got too many free drugs. I've got too much free booze, and I've got enough money to have a good life. So there's no problems here, and that's the thing. It's like, but so on paper, you know, people see you up there, he's having a great time, there's nothing wrong with him, like, yeah, he's doing a shot of tequila, but he looks like he's having a good time. But really, it's not. It's
can't
dark.
see the inside.
Yeah, and so the inside, I was just like, have to make a change. I mean, you know, just real big issues with relationships. You know, until my relationship now that I'm sober, my career, like being a DJ and, you know, touring and stuff, has destroyed every relationship. No question, because of it. Only now that I'm sober are things going well in my in my home life. And that's even though I've had these amazing gigs and these successful albums and all these fans of people that love our music and like all this stuff, like that's great, but you can have all of that, but if you're not happy, what's the point?
It's such a great topic, because also the thing is, I see people all the time who are very successful and they've got all the material trapped, they've got everything, they're multi-millionaires, but yet they're in Hyde Park and they want to commit suicide. But yet you look outside and you think, oh God, why would somebody, where they've got, they're so fortunate. But what I think the great thing about you and what you're doing, Matt, is that you're setting a precedence for other people who are in the industry and who are DJs who think, oh, I can't get clean because there's so much pressure. As you were talking about, the people with the guy, the promoters or whatever it was, the guy, come on, have a drink or have a, I think people could think, oh, if I'm in this industry, I couldn't get clean, so I need to keep using in order to maintain my career. But in fact, you can do it all clean. You can do it and you can navigate it, but you have to be focused and have to really be in recovery and to avoid those situations like you just talked about, the acid spray or the whatever it might be, because you've got to sort of say, no, I'm in recovery. Well, whether you say
it's a new habit that you're developing, though, isn't it? Saying no.
I think,
I've never said no.
Yeah,
I can't remember ever saying no. But at first, it's
saying no is the new addiction.
It's a new muscle, isn't it? But then it becomes easier, and then, in my experience, I just didn't even see it going on. It was probably going on all around me, but I just didn't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I echo what everyone else has said, and I have great admiration for you being able to achieve that in that setting. Do you know what I mean? I do believe that, if you do have a sense of yourself and recovering what it means to you, you could live in a cocaine factory above a pub. And it'll be fine as long as you, as long as that's the decision that you've made.
Yeah.
So if I was to fast forward this, say 5 years, Matt, is your music going to get better? Has your ambitions changed? Do you know what I mean? What's your sense of you, the band, the future and recovery? What does that look like? Do you, I always think to myself that, it's always a progression. Right, it's always a progression. And has your music got better? Do you think your music's got better? Do you think that, can you see something now rather than just being on a treadmill?
Yeah, I feel like it's at first, when I first stopped drinking and getting on it, especially at work, especially at the gigs, I mean, it was scary. I was like, can I do this sober? Can I do this sober? And also, will I have the same energy in the studio? Was the drugs and the booze giving me that creativity? Yeah. Was it making me good at making tunes? Was it making my ideas really, clubby and ravey and so they work for people who are on drugs, because everyone's on drugs.
Yeah.
So for my music to work, maybe I should be on drugs too. So to when I first started, when I first sort of thought, this is it now. I'm not drinking anymore. How can I still make tunes? And it's a process. And I am quite. It's probably the first time in my life where I'm a bit more anxious about the future, because before, I remember always saying this, especially with my business partner who I do the project with. Whenever we used to do interviews and stuff, especially when we first started, they'd always be like, so where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where's the act going to be in 5 years? And we'd just be like, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow, mate. You know what I mean? Fuck off. You know what I mean? We don't care. We just want to make bangers and go and DJ around the world and smash it. That's what we wanted to do. And that's what we still do and we still want to do. But now that I'm sober, I do think a little bit more about reality. Basically, you're just not in reality when you're smashed all the time. You're just in the zone. You're in your own head. You're in your own ego. You think you're invincible in a weird way. Whereas when you're sober, you're like, actually, I'm actually not. Don't be a prick.
Deflation of the ego, isn't it? And
you realise that you're not that great. You're just another fucking DJ, whatever.
Has your music changed over the last 2 years since you've been sober?
I think it has a little bit. Yeah, I think it's maybe a little bit deeper, a bit more thinking. Maybe I think a bit more about about sort of emotional stuff and maybe writing. Because a lot of the stuff that we do, we write with other people. So we'll get in a room like this, you know, and we'll have two people with us who one's a songwriter and one's a singer, and we'll write songs together.
Right.
So probably the topics and the emotion and the feelings that I go through when I'm in those situations are probably a little bit more intense. They're different. Definitely.
Was you writing before when you was drinking, or would you stay sober when you was creating?
I've done a mixture.
Okay.
We do drugs in the studio sometimes.
Yeah.
We'd be boozing.
Right.
I've written some really good tunes
Whilst
off my face.
Okay,
sure.
But I've written some absolute stinkers as well.
Right, okay.
Most of them were stinkers.
Yeah.
And like, especially, it's funny when I first started making tunes properly, like, you know, started releasing records in the underground, like, you know, when I was in my sort of early 20s, I would always, you know, we'd come back from a rave, or I'd still be up, or, you know, get some drugs in and get in the studio and try and make music because we thought it was fun. You know, literally 9.5 times out of 10, you'd listen back the next day and it would just be dog shit.
Trying to get the hi-hat sound right.
Yeah,
for
but it would
3
just be
hours.
like a mess because your ears don't work. You know, that's another thing. When you're drunk, there's so many things that you do. The more you drunk you get, the worse it is for you, the whole thing. So you have to turn it up louder to be able to hear when you're mixing, when you're in a big club. Like, to be able to actually mix, you have to blast the monitors. Otherwise, you just can't hear what you're doing, because obviously your hearing is completely like rubbish when you're drunk. So you destroy your hearing more as well when you're drinking all the time. So that's another massive thing that has been changed. Now when I'm in the booth, I turn it down a lot because I can hear it so much louder because I'm not drunk. My ears have got, obviously as I've got older, I've got a little bit of damage in one of my ears from DJing with such loud music, but my hearing has got clearer, like, since I've got clean. So I can hear things better in the songs. I can mix better. I can do it better. Like I can definitely do my job better when I'm sober. And it's like, when you're drunk, you think you're better because you've got this mad like autopilot ego thing that comes in, and you're just like, yeah, I'm sick, I'm smashing it.
Yeah.
But really, you're not.
Yeah.
You just look like a twat.
Yeah, it's really,
You know? It's like when you're sober, you look like you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
it's really interesting listening to you, because I've got a mate of mine who's a singer, and you know, and he's fairly successful, and he's alcoholic. You know, he's alcoholic, and he spends. And I want him to hear you. I want to play this to him, because he spends weeks drinking.
Yeah.
He spends weeks drinking, then he goes out, makes music. Music's kind of fairly successful, and he drinks more.
That's the problem. It's like until recently, very recently, you know, it was every win was a it was celebrating constantly, and it's like, you just, in the music industry, it's like, your new album's out, like, we're gonna have a massive dinner, we're gonna have a massive rave, like, you're gonna have a birthday party and it's gonna be a rave with 5,000 people. And it's like, that's a massive celebration. So why wouldn't you get another big bag of coke in? And why wouldn't you get 10 bottles of champagne? Like, why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? But then now it's like, I felt awful after the whole time. I felt rubbish. But it was
your rock bottom.
Aye.
Yeah, and what I would like, you know, I'd like him to see and hear this.
Yeah.
And I'd really like you to tell him that, as you know, a fellow artist, as someone that makes music, and you know, and he's really aware of it. He's really conscious of it. So he's sort of saying, you know, I make music. Will the music be any better?
It's scary, especially if you're a singer and you're a song and you're a lyricist, because it can be very, you know, being in that mindset. If you've written music your whole life, when you're on drugs or you're on alcohol, that sort of like creative mindset is it can be difficult to access that when you're not drunk. So it can be scary. And I think as a producer, I'm lucky. I'm a lucky, because obviously I do write lyrics and stuff, but I don't sing them. I don't write them from a place which is like, you know, fully sort of from my personal aspect. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm the guy making the sounds and mixing it and recording it, and I'm giving ideas and giving a bit of emotion into this actual songwriting of it. But you know, at the end of the day, I can sort of like get away with it not affecting me too much. And being a DJ as well, it's like, it's a little bit different. to being a sort of solo artist, you know, singer-songwriter. Because you see it a lot with certain acts. You know, there are certain acts that, you know, even me personally, like, I loved when they were drunk. I loved their music, but now I think it's boring because they're sober and their lyrics are boring.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not going to name any names, but there
yeah.
there are a few acts that I used to love, and now their music's isn't that good because, but they're probably much happier.
But there's also all the pressure, isn't there, from the crowd, for the fans as well, as like you're on it, you're using drugs, you're you know, that you're like, if they think that you're straight, you know, do you lose a big bit of the fan base?
Yeah.
Do you lose a big bit of the fan base because those people who are all in their addiction, which is lots of the fans, will go, oh, he's a bit straight now, he's not, you know, is there still that perspective that used to be around years ago, that people are out their head, they're cool, they're sort of trendy. But nowadays, I think there's more and more people coming in the public domain, isn't it, who say, oh, look, I'm in recovery, whether it be actors, whether it be musicians, whether it be, you know, so it's much more trendy to be in recovery. But you've still got a massive fan base who are all stoners, who are all out there.
This is the first time I've spoken about it, so it's like I haven't really told anyone that I've never put it on Twitter or on Instagram that, you know, I'm not drinking anymore or I'm sober. Like, I haven't done that because I don't want to preach, like, and I don't want to, like, be some, like, I don't want to be seen like I'm looking down on people that do drugs and do alcohol. Like, I don't have anything against people doing that. Do you know what I mean? Because everyone's got their own, you know, choices and their own lives. But it's like, a lot of people have said to me, like, you need to speak to people about, you need to tell people, because there's so many people that there's so many people that are going through it, and so many people that maybe can't get clean, and they think that it's too hard, and they'll rather just you know, nestle it away by drinking more. And it's like, I just don't feel like I'm ready yet to do that publicly. Obviously, I'm talking about it right now, but like not in a blatant way where I'm like, right, this is, because there's a few people that I've seen recently do it, who I know in the scene, not like very close friends, but other DJs, and the response has been, and I've been watching it, and I've been watching what the response has been like, but from their fans and from the community that we're all in, and it's been really positive. No one said, what's wrong with you? Like, you should be partying with your fans. Like, you should be partying as well. They haven't said that. So me personally, like, I haven't felt ready to do that, because I don't know why, because it's quite new, and I don't want to,
But what's it feel like now then? What's it feel you're here now, you're expressing,
talking about
you're talking about it, you're actually in situ.
It feels good. Yeah, it feels good to talk about it. It feels like like I feel more proud of what I've done by actually talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because obviously my wife is super proud of me, and she's like, it's amazing what you've done. My management team are really proud of me. You know, it's funny, after 3 weeks of it, I went into the management office, and they were like, Matt, you look a lot better than you did. Because I looked smashed. I looked awful. I was drinking.
I can't imagine him like that.
Aye.
It's funny. But I was bad.
There's a difference between addiction and habit.
Yeah.
So we're either driven by addiction, and it takes us to them dark places with drugs and all that, or there's a lot of, like, is a member of my family who drunk and took drugs, and they're not in recovery. They just stopped because they had enough. So they wasn't driven by the addict to use anything else. It was just a habit they formed, taking drugs. And do you feel that yours was addiction, or?
Yeah, for sure. I think it definitely was, because to stop was hard, and to stop I had to replace it with, you know, therapy and exercise and all this stuff, and it's like
is the music therapy?
Yeah, 100%. That's another thing, like, I was thinking about the other day. You know, Fat Tony's book. He said this thing, and I when I read, I was going through recovery at the time. I was trying to get sober, and I think I didn't read his whole book, but I listened to him on a podcast about, and he talked all about it. And he said, you know, music is the best drug in the world
Oh yeah.
on its own. And I was
Yeah,
thinking,
I think I saw that.
at the time, I was like, oh, whatever. Like,
But it is.
yeah, I mean, but now
But it really is.
it fucking is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, I'm playing these tunes to thousands of people, and I'm like, this is amazing. I'm sober, and the music sounds amazing, and it sounds so amazing. It sounds so much better than it did. You can hear everything, you can see it, and also like the love that you see in the crowd and the people around you. Although half of them or 3/4 of them might be on ecstasy, yeah, there's still a bit of love in them,
Yeah,
and you
cool.
feel it for real.
Cool.
Yeah.
Because before, I didn't care about it. I just cared about me. I just cared about my drinks and I was rude. People coming near the booth, I'll be like, get the fuck away from me. Like, those are my drinks. You're not drinking them. Whereas now I'm like, take everything, have a wicked time. You lot have a great time. I'm having fun. This is great.
And there's and listening to you, there's a certain authenticity about what it is you're doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like I can really sense that, the fact that I'm who I am.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm owning who I am.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do this, and I
Yeah.
do it because I love it.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it to the best of my ability, and that's a lot better when I'm sober.
Yeah, that's new. This is all new for me. Like, this is something which happened literally in the past year. So it's funny, this time last year, I was halfway through the residency then in Ibiza, which I'm doing now every Monday. We did it the same thing last year. And I was struggling. That was when it was bad. I was like, obviously during COVID, we all had a break, right? So we went back after COVID and it was just full on. We did a gig, we had like sort of 1 day off a week and it was just relentless. And I was drinking to get through it, and after 8 months, it took its toll, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I had to take a month. I basically had to say to my business partner, I said, look, mate, I said to everyone, I came clean basically with them, and I went, look, guys, I've got a problem. I can't do this. I've got to stop touring. I didn't say for how long. I said, look, I've got to take this month off, because otherwise it's all going to just end. I can't do it anymore. And they were all really understanding, and they said, look, I guess that was kind of my rock bottom, career.
Sounds like it.
Like career-wise.
Yeah.
So that's when I threw in the towel.
I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You remember it,
I
yeah.
remember it really well, Matt.
I said to everyone, look, I can't do this. I can't come on the road. Like, I've got to take some time off. And I told my wife as well. And I was like, well, I think we weren't married yet, but yeah, I told her, and I was like, look, I've just got to stop. And they said, look, take some time off. It's all good. Just let us know when you're ready again. And it took I think I took a month off, and then 6 weeks later, I was like, right, I'm going to try and come back out again. And I did, and it was really hard. It was really
Sober?
Sober, yeah. Yeah, I came back sober. Yeah, fully. Came back, the first show I did back, it was a 5-hour set in London. And it was, it was quite a long set, and it was 3,000 people, massive warehouse, Printworks in London, amazing venue. And I remember walking in, and walking up to the decks, and I looked at the decks, and my side had a sparkling water and a Coca-Cola maybe, and the other side, my business partner, he's got the tequila and the beers.
Yeah.
And it was like, because I go on the right and he goes on the left. Yeah. And I was like, oh, fucking hell.
It's quite symbolic, isn't it?
5 hours.
Like,
I was like, looked at the decks. I was like, right, this is fine. I'm going to do this. And I did it. And at the end, I said to my Tom, I was like, right, just as a reward, you can get me a non-alcoholic beer.
I remember you were thinking
and I had a non-alcoholic beer, and I was like, right, that's my sort of like reward.
Yeah.
And that was it. And since then, I haven't had a drink. So during,
it's cool.
Well done.
It's great, man. It's great.
Fantastic. Right, we're gonna wrap up, and just everybody's last thoughts. I'm gonna go around the room. You can tell me about recovery, music, and Matt's journey, really, Matt's voyage.
Well, for me, I just feel privileged that this is the first time Matt. For me, it's really, it's unique, isn't it? It's the first time Matt's actually came out and said what it's like for him, and as regards the, and being in recovery. So I think it's as far as our podcasts are concerned, I think it's a great thing, and I feel privileged, and also I feel proud of you, Matt. I feel proud of you when you were talking about the people. Every time I look at your name, and I think, oh, brilliant, man. So it's,
nice one.
Yeah.
It's good to be here.
All right, so I think that Matt, how's it been for you?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been nice to talk about it. It's been quite interesting. Like I haven't spoken to anyone about it. Some people who might listen to this probably don't even know that I'm that I have done this and I have changed the way I live and the way I perform and the way I work. So yeah, it's nice. I feel good, actually. I feel good after talking about it. It's a bit like going to a meeting. Like I went to a few meetings that, you know, when I first started getting sober, and I don't really go to meetings now, but I did, and it feels similar to doing that first meeting, that first what do you call it, share?
Yeah.
When I did, you know, but it feels better because it's even more like I'm further through it, and but like everyone says, every day is, you know, a struggle, not a struggle, but you take every day as it comes, right? Yeah. And it's still like that, you know. Nothing's like forever. Yeah. So whatever.
Steve?
Yeah, it's good. It's good to be here. My first podcast as well. Obviously, I've always been on the other side of the camera and the mixing desk. But yeah, it's great to hear you, Matt. It's great. You know, it's great to have you in recovery, and I always just find it so inspiring to hear those early days, and because it's like it's fresh for you. You know, I've been sober for a few years now, and I can forget what it was like in those final days and final years. We're not talking about days; it was years. And just hearing about those experiences, like walking up the steps to the decks and just seeing water there, it's just like, oh my God, my life's changed. It's like that represents my new life, and you know, it's surreal and beautiful at the same time. But yeah, it's good to see you guys as well. I haven't seen you this year, so it's, good to be here.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought you was great, Steve, to be honest with you. I loved everything you said. But I think for your sort of test, you know, it wasn't, they say, you know, you keep going in the pub, or keep going into your barbers, you get an haircut. So you had to immerse yourself in something that was, you know, fueled by it. So it's incredible that you got that sort of recovery, and what a strong recovery you've got. And it was really interesting to listen to it. It really was, yeah. And I didn't detect any sort of ego, sort of this bolshy little sort of DJ, whatever. I really enjoyed listening to you. And like Steve said, it encouraged me, because I forgot about early days. And I thought he's going to make and everything you said was so encouraging to think, oh, bloody hell. I mean, mine was 20 odd years ago. And it was great. I remember, you know, it's like the pink cloud. And I think it's great what you're doing, and long may it continue. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Nice
I just want to end on this. I think today was really important. I think it's really important for me to listen to, definitely some people that I know, that someone that does what you do in the environment that you do can find recovery and kind of move towards that with some sort of, you know, conviction, passion,
happiness.
Yeah, happiness. Yeah, and you know, and desire, and you know, and I'm sure anybody that's listening to it will connect with that as well. So this has been the Gritty Nitty podcast, session 8, I believe, and Matt's been here, Steve's been here, Michael's been here, Mark's been here. I haven't been here. I haven't been here, but you've heard my voice. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Great, man.
What's that?